Hello, and welcome to week 4. This week, I actually have some notes before I start on the content. So, what I wanted to say was first off, is please check your feedback. There's a handful of people who have had technical issues, and I've put in the feedback how you can remedy that. So, make sure you take a look to make sure that I'm actually getting your content. Um, the okay, so in a couple of blogs, I mentioned that tools, apps, and resources are three different things because the ALA list had a bunch of like websites, that you could go to and use as a resource that from the categorization that we had that week, I wouldn't consider those tools, and that was fine. Any resources you want to put in your blog is fine, but I just wanted to sort of clarify that we just kind of need to know what we're talking about. I call it the Q-tip conundrum. So all tools are resources, but not all resources are tools, just as all Q-tips are cotton swabs, but not all cotton swabs are Q-tips. It seemed smarter when I wrote it down in my notes. One of the things that I wanted to comment on is so many people made Padlets to house all of their tools for week 2. And it was really cool. It was really cool to see you using that format. That was one of the formats that you were looking at. Oh, and then the final thing is I use a lot of exclamation points in the feedback, and I've been trying to rein it in, and now I'm just going to own it. It's not, I read an article in the New York Times this morning about love bombing. It's not that. It is that I'm kind of relentlessly positive in feedback because I feel like if there's something you need to know, if there's something that you need to change, obviously I'll say something. But for the most part, the fact that you are doing graduate level work during a pandemic on the computer, frankly, you know what? I'm really proud of you for just that. And the work is so good. You know what? We're all grown-ups here, and it's just rather different from my experience in the high school lately. So I very much appreciate all the effort that you are all putting in. Okay, so Module 4 content. This week we're doing online multimedia. So watch the video, which you're doing. Then you do have a standalone assignment this week. It is to choose a topic in the state standards. So do take a look at the standards. And someone had already asked me about digital literacy. There are, Massachusetts has digital literacy and computer science standards, so you can use those as well. Whichever, if you want a topic level, something from history. I get a lot of history for some reason, but history, science, math, ELA, art, music, whatever you want, whatever topic, as long as it is in the we're going to use Massachusetts standards. And I want you to find 5 videos and 3 podcasts that could be used in the classroom and annotate them. And that's in the assignment tool. So what I need to know, I believe I put the specifics. So yes, you're going to choose a topic in grade level. Oh, I say here you can look in the state standards if you're having a hard time, but you don't need to be that specific. So forget the standards part. We will be looking at that later when we do lesson plans. Yeah, that's coming. Sorry. So you're going to search for 5 videos, 3 podcasts, 3-sentence annotation. Here it is. Who made it? What content does it cover? And why do you think it would be useful? So give them a listen. Don't go saying that this, TED Talk on astrophysics is going to be useful for a 2nd grader wanting to learn about whatever, because it won't. So, line it up a little bit. I say here, if you're choosing media for younger students, you might want to do 2 separate sets because it may be more difficult to find content geared toward early elementary students. I don't think that's the case as much anymore, especially, YouTube and TeacherTube. There is so much geared towards elementary, but you can do 2 different topics. You don't have to have all 8 resources on one topic. All right, you might want to do a book vlogger. That's fine. But we're really focusing, you can do 1, but we're going to look at that later. So we're really focusing on classroom content as much as we can. And then the second piece is I want you to create some multimedia and upload it to your blog. It can be putting a video up on YouTube. It can be a Vimeo. It can be, an audio file, a podcast, whatever you're interested in. There are some tools and apps here. There's Anchor, Animoto, Audacity, Pandora. Even though Pandora is a listening resource, it's not something where you're creating. It is handy. TeacherTube, VideoAnt, which we looked at earlier, Vimeo, which I love, and then of course the big kahuna is YouTube. So make a piece of media. It doesn't matter. I mean, doesn't have to be fancy. It's just to show that you played with a media tool, basically. And then find those podcasts and the videos. Some of the the written resources I have are Benesfield and Rogers. They do podcasts for School Library Journal, and that's very up to date. If you go into the Salem State databases and you look in, I think it's Academic Search Elite, the School Library Journals in there, and those will all come up. Then there's more in Renee's Create to Learn. There's a lot about creating media. Then, so we talked about TikTok a little bit last week, and it's up here again, the Kelly Jensen article. And it was so funny to me because, I have two different classes, and you're both kind of doing great. And so I haven't noticed a lot of differences. Boy, there was a real difference in how people talked about TikTok in the two classes, and I'm curious to see what happens this week. All right, and then I have the Buffy versus Edward remix. So this was a guy, Jonathan McIntosh, who created a mashup, and I'm showing my age here, but it was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which all librarians should have at least a passing knowledge of, and then the Twilight films. And they compared and contrasted the two, Buffy, the sort of kick-ass heroine of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Edward, the sort of whiny, quiet, stalkerish vampire, and looked at sort of relationship health in the context of those two films. And it was really interesting, but then there was a big scandal because, well, not scandal, but his McIntosh's content was removed because Lionsgate said, no, you can't use that, and it turned into a discussion about fair use. And when we remix or repurpose something, how much of that, is allowed? And Renee Hobbs also gets into that in Create to Learn. It's an interesting question because people do have different opinions about this factual thing. And this is not a class where we look terrifically hard at copyright, but again, we always want to keep it in the forefront of our practice and what we tell our students. So I believe that that's everything, and I have not yet hit the 8-minute mark. I'm so proud of myself. All right, it's freezing out. I'm wearing 4 sweaters, and I'm going to go and write some curriculum. I hope that you have a great week, and I will see you on the discussion boards. Thanks.